59
PJ
yards.
to DJ.
Yeah.
Boom.
Exactly. They are trending in the right direction.
Somebody should make a T-shirt about that.
I don't think they will.
Oh, I think they will.
Yeah, you think they will? You think
What
they
else
make
do
that
they
happen?
have?
Go on
Yeah,
the Commanders
PJ
and
to
get that
DJ.
T-shirt done?
Yeah, there's probably, I can already see it, right? There's like a big J,
Yeah.
and there's like the P and a D, and a P
yeah,
to
okay.
D,
Yeah.
right? You know, PJ to DJ.
Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
Happy Friday. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. I'm Connor Rogers alongside Matthew Berry, Jay Croucher. Barry, we got some good news for you. The shirts the shirts you're wishing for?
Yeah.
They're happening.
The PJ to DJ
PJ
shirts?
to DJ, they're in.
Really?
They're all the rage. Check them out.
Look at that. Baker Mayfield rocking it. Sure, 100%. He's a good.
Interesting model choice, huh?
Yeah. You know what? By the way, totally not photoshopped.
Yes.
Absolutely, this
No.
is 100% real. Definitely not fake news.
Yes, there's no.
Definitely not done by any of our graphics people.
Yeah, there's no BM to DJ T-shirts, unfortunately.
They're online everywhere. Anywhere you can get them.
Yeah.
Before we get into last night's game, little news, Jonathan Taylor did not practice again, so that is now 3 days in a row. Sounds like Jonathan Taylor is going to be down this weekend. Tough season continues for Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, and everyone that's drafted him. Let's
Well.
think of those people as well.
Well,
Let's
that's
pour
their
one out
fault.
for our homies. Yeah, how dare
mean,
they have the number 1 overall pick? Yeah, obviously really frustrating here, but Deon Jackson should get the majority of work here. Like, you know, he's averaging 110 total yards, 7 receptions per game in the games in which he's seen meaningful work as well. And so, I mean, Deon Jackson, to me, look, you don't love the matchup against New England, but with no Nyheim Hines and Jonathan Taylor not practicing at all this week, looks like Deon Jackson, once again, is a locked-in top 20 play this week.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's not like they're going to set Sam Ellinger free against Bill Belichick. He'll be
No.
in his Sam Ellinger cage, and it will be the Deon Jackson show.
Yeah, I mean, Matt, and what's nice about Jackson is that we saw, now, it was under Matt Ryan when he got those 2 starts in weeks 5 and 6, but he was a nice pass catcher. And so he's somebody that doesn't need to come off the field no matter what the game script is. Yeah, if you were sitting here in Bimageddon hell, as I am, with Barkley and CMC, on a bye here, and Zeke in a deeper league. I have Zeke. You might not have Nick Chubb, whatever.
Yep.
Here comes Deon Jackson to save the day, and he's not the only running back that's out there that I think has a big opportunity this week, Connor.
Let's get into how the week started. Thursday Night Football, the Eagles beat the Texans.
I thought this is where I was going to go. Sorry. All right, I was trying to lead you there. Never mind. Don't worry about it. I got it. You're worried. Pre-show meeting. You're worried about your.
Out.
No. Listen, Jay.
Once again, I was in the room.
Pre-show meeting.
Jay was in the room.
Pre-show meeting. He's worried about his hair. He's not worried. Like
here we go
when
again.
you don't have hair, you can focus on what's happening. And just before we went on the air, I got this. Don't worry. about it. You
Forget the rundown.
No,
Forget
exactly.
the meeting rundown.
You work on shirtless photos
Yeah.
on Instagram. I'm going to tell you here. Look, just before we went on the air, Chuba Hubbard officially ruled out by the Carolina Panthers. So Deontay Foreman, you were going to get into last night's game,
If you
dude.
were in the meeting, we are getting to the Panthers.
That's much more important. We just did DJ to PJ. We're already in Panther. We're already in the Panther mode.
We just
wearing
wanted to
our
make the
pajamas?
shirts for you. We like starting off to get you in a good mood for the show.
I'm in a
happy.
great mood
I know.
until you ignored the breaking massive
massive
Chuba Hubbard
Chuba Hubbard
news.
news, yeah.
Yeah,
America-
exactly. For the love of
America
God.
wins.
Anyway, fine. You want to get there? Oh, fine. Never mind. Forget I said anything
I don't care
about
about
Chuba
the
Hubbard.
rundown
Apparently,
anymore.
we're
Talk about
getting
the
there.
Texans instead.
Yes, now we get to talk about the Texans, the high-flying Texans against the Eagles. More importantly,
Pretend I didn't say anything.
Yeah,
No,
no,
you do
is
the
that a
show.
sight out of mind?
No. You do the show.
I'm
how
thinking
you
of
want.
Instagram right
No,
now.
no,
Hair,
exactly,
shirtless
exactly.
pics.
And I feel like I haven't spent a lot of time on your Instagram at Connor James Rogers for anyone out there.
There we go.
But I feel like it's a lot of. I feel like you have like a lot of like shirtless photos and then
right?
like tank tops, a lot of
Look at
working
this.
out
Yeah,
photos.
you're gonna be
Maybe
disappointed.
Maybe a couple photos of like you doing Jets crap, but like
Yeah.
I think it's mostly like Yeah, it's just, a lot of working out.
Irontown.
A lot of Irontown.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's the capital of Irontown.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know where we're going.
Town.
Yeah.
Sure, of course.
A little
exactly.
different.
Mayor Pound
There are
Town.
not that many shirtless photos on his Instagram. That's a lot.
There's not
there
enough.
are a couple.
There's
There
a
are
few, though,
couple.
right? Yes,
Yeah.
Jay Croucher,
You
exactly.
keep scrolling.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you
Mostly me
go.
packed into a suit, breaking down the lovely Tyler Conklin-led Jets
Yes.
offense. We'll get there, too. But the Eagles, back to the Eagles-Texans somehow.
Sure.
Somehow we're going to get there. I don't know how long. But
right.
the Eagles win. No one's surprised. They were double-digit favorites, almost double touchdown favorites in this game. I mean, I think the question is right now, guys, when we've talked about this earlier in the week, are the Eagles just going to remain undefeated through the entire month as we look at the rest of their schedule? Jay, I'll start with you. Obviously, this is the cupcake schedule of all cupcake schedules right here.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Just crafted by the Philadelphia gods. Everything going right for Philadelphia outside of Chas McCormick making that catch at the wall last night for the Astros. But, I mean, the thing is, and we talked about it, Connor, but there is a chance we might not find out if the Eagles are any good until the Super Bowl when they play the Bills.
I don't know.
Never will call them frauds if they lose.
They're running into the buzzsaw that is Taylor Heineke and the Commanders in Week 10. That might be tough there.
You know, it was a funny game last night because basically, like, I was asked, do we change our opinion about anyone after last night? Like, no. It basically hit exactly the line. It hit exactly the total. It was exactly as expected. It was the exact game that everyone thought it was going to be, and we just move on, and the Eagles are 8-0.
Yeah, and Barry, your ride or die Jalen Hurts with another good week.
By the way, there was a lot of reasons why I was so high on Jalen Hurts coming to the season, why I named him my fantasy football ride or die, why I thought he could take a Josh Allen-like leap. I said that at the the preseason game. Everyone's now like, oh, of course. And I'm like, no. At the start of the year, there were people saying, like, is this guy even a franchise quarterback? There were some people that questioned him being a real NFL quarterback. And by some people, I mean Chris Sims, our colleague Chris Sims. He said that on air. He said that on air to me. I'm just saying. Like, what? Sims. No, listen.
My God, straight.
No.
Unbuttoning Chris Sims.
Oh, yeah. Like, he's already unbuttoned. I will tell you this. Look, no. One of the great things about Sims, and I love Sims, Sims owns everything. Yep. Sims never backs down from anything. He would own that 100% that he said that. And
now you've owned it for him.
Right, 1,000%. Because I got grief on my fantasy ride or die, and he's making me look super smart. But one of the many things that I talked about in terms of why I thought he could make this Josh Allen-like leap from year 2 to year 3, and not only be, the number one quarterback in fantasy was in the realm of range of outcomes, but so was, potentially being the NFL MVP, is their schedule. The fact of the matter is that was one of the things we brought up is they just have this great schedule. And so, look, I'm not predicting they're going to go undefeated, but I'm also not going to say they ain't. I mean, like it's
in play now. It's
absolutely in play. The only concern on Jalen Hurts, and it feels a little weird to say, is there a concern on Jalen Hurts? But guys, the last 3 games, he's averaging under 23 rushing yards per game. He's had 3 straight games without a rushing touchdown, 3 straight games under 30 rushing yards, and that was a big part of his fantasy value early in his career, and especially earlier in the season. He was getting over 50 rushing yards a game in the first 5 games of the season. How are we feeling, guys, about Jalen Hurts? I mean, like, should you still is anyone out here willing to say sell high on him because the rushing's going away, or just a blip?
Just feel like he hasn't had to run, right? They're such a high-powered offense that the only way you could even keep up with them is if you try to run against their defense without Jordan Davis on the field, which was the big difference. That eats away the clock, so a little less offensive time. So, I mean, Jay, he's the NFL Offensive Player of the Year favorite right now, courtesy of our friends at BetMGM. Do you think he's worthy of those odds, and pretty drastic odds at the top of the board?
Yeah, I don't believe that he's worthy of those odds, Connor. I don't think he should be the favorite. I mean, he's going to end up with less passing yards than Josh Allen, less rushing yards than Josh Allen, less rushing yards than Daniel Jones, probably. So, look, I get the idea that you want to reward the Eagles, and Allen probably gets MVP, so let's give Jalen Hurts an award, but it doesn't really work like that.
I was going to ask, is that actually a real impact?
No, it doesn't. And when quarterbacks have split these awards previously, but it would always be like Brady or Manning wins MVP, and then Drew Brees setting records wins Offensive Player of the Year. Jalen Hurts isn't setting any records statistically. His team is excellent. I think he's in the mix for MVP. I'd still favor Josh Allen, but I think Tyreek Hill should be the favorite for that award. He's on pace to break the receiving yards record. And I think Derrick Henry, who's plus 3,000, he should be the second favorite. So I wouldn't be touching Jalen Hurts. I'd be going further down the board.
Yeah. All right. Will you use promo code Barry when you do that at BetMGM?
Well, I'm already signed up, so I can't. But if I could re-sign up, then I would.
What about your wife?
My wife?
You have 3 kids.
Yes, you do have 3 kids.
She can sign up using promo code Barry.
That's all I'm asking.
Maybe I'll get her to place a little Derrick Henry Offensive Player of the Year.
There you go, exactly.
Welcome to America, Sophia.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry, OPOY.
This is what we do. It's how we do things here.
Exactly.
We look for value on the odd board. Dallas Goedert, the highest scoring player in this game, 9 targets, 8 catches, 100 yards, 24 fantasy points. Goddard right now is just on a torrid pace, and an offense that it feels like him and A.J. Brown, the consistency they bring is just phenomenal for fantasy.
So he led, to your point, he led the team in targets well, over 24 fantasy points here for Dallas Goedert. And, like, the tier of fantasy tight ends right now, right? I mean, it is Andrews and Kelsey and Andrews, but Goddard is in that very next tier, that Hawkinson, that T.J. Hawkinson tier, that I think George Kittle's in that range now as well. Like, he's right there in that next tier. Like, you'd rather have Goddard than Darren Waller, I think, for the rest of the way, like in terms of what we've seen. And so, one of the concerns here is that because they're so effective at running the ball and because they're so good at playing defense, the Eagles are, like, it doesn't feel like there's room for 3 viable pass catchers every given week. A.J. Brown's always going to get his, so it sort of feels like it's either a Goddard game or a Devontae Smith game. And obviously last night it was a Dallas Goedert game.
Yeah. Matthew didn't like Dallas Goedert in the preseason. I loved him. Me and Chris Sims, we both loved him. I really loved Dallas Goedert.
Yeah, good for you and Sims.
I had him as a top. I had him as a top 10 play, but I did think it. Yeah, there's no question about it. I was probably slightly lower on him than consensus.
The thing with Dallas Goedert is that, like, his yards per route run, he's 4th in the NFL right now. The 3 guys that he's behind, Andrews, Kelsey, and David Njoku sneakily is in there. And Dallas Goedert was in that same company last year with Andrews and Kelsey. So he's just really good, and he's getting fed by Jalen Hurts, and he's just an elite tight end going forward.
And does any play work more than the Dallas Goedert screen in the middle of the field? They run it 4 times a game. It works every time. It's a free 50
One of the
yards.
great Madden plays.
Yes, and now
exactly.
they're taking results onto the field. So, I mean, you hinted at it, though. Somebody loses on this offense, this high-powered offense each week, and Devontae Smith comes out on the wrong end of that last night. 2 targets, only 2 catches. Barry, what do you attribute Smith's inconsistencies to? Because we talked about this after week 1 where he had the goose egg as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact of the matter is they just haven't needed it, right? I mean, again, they run the ball really, really effectively, and they play good defense. So they haven't had to get into these crazy shootouts here. And there's been only 2 games this entire year in which Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, and Dallas Goedert have all had double-digit fantasy points. Just, it's not a high enough volume offense in the passing attack because they're so good on the ground, and they don't play at a super high pace of play where they can support 3 fantasy-relevant pass catchers. Smith has now had under 45 receiving yards in 3 straight games. He's had only 2 games this entire year with double-digit targets, which is fine. You don't need double-digit targets to produce in this offense, but, to me, Devontae Smith is kind of a risky wide receiver 4 at this point. The concern here basically is that you sit there and you look at any game, right? I mean, they can play. They play the Commanders next week. My soon-to-be 5-4 Commanders.
Sorry, Vikings.
No, listen.
Tough luck.
Tough.
You don't want to run into them.
6-2 Vikings.
Look, the Commanders lead the league in lawsuits. You can laugh all you want, but you look at the leaderboard and we're right there.
Yeah.
Like
yards per lawsuit run.
Yards per lawsuit run. Like every
Dollars
underlying stack, right. Yeah. Number of motions per lawsuit, right. Number of denials from the team only to admit that it was actually true per team. I'm like, we're across the board. We really crushed that. Number of stadium proposals turned down by cities. We lead the league in that. Like, I mean, we're among the right. Caused. Exactly. Yeah. We are among the league leaders in many, many categories.
Sewage water falling from
1,000%.
Yeah, that's number 1.
Unsafe stands.
Yes.
1,000%.
Almost killed your ride or die. You almost died before you got to ride with it.
1,000%. Yeah, amount of year-old peanuts sold. We're also the league leader in that, right? I'm just saying. Like, a lot of people want to mock the Commanders, but then you look at the standings, and we're at the top of the standings in a lot of different areas.
Numbers don't lie.
A lot of different categories. Numbers do not lie, Connor Rogers. That's 100%. All right. So my point is that you think about next week's game, Eagles-Commanders, so you're sitting there like, I'm going to start. There's going to be 2 good pass catchers from the Eagles, most likely. And we know A.J. Brown's going to be one of them. So it's really Goddard or Smith, and you probably don't have this, chance on your team. Do I start Goddard? Do I start Smith? But it just feels like Goddard is more of a mismatch, and Smith is more big play dependent these days. And like so, he's a much better NFL piece for the Eagles because he's a good wide receiver. He's a good piece for him than he is a consistent fantasy force. I think he's a wide receiver for going forward, and I think it just sort of depends on the matchup. He's not somebody that you feel great about starting in a given week.
And he would like to remind everyone, the PG version, he does not care about your fantasy team, Devontae Smith.
Yes.
What do you think that F stands for, Jay Croucher?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, fudge. I don't know. The problem with Devontae
Frick.
Smith,
I think it's Frick.
Yeah, you think it's Frick?
I don't give a frick about y'all's fantasy team. By the way, Devontae Smith, you shouldn't. My guess is that Devontae Smith is reacting to because a lot of people are reaching out to him that are fantasy managers. They're disappointed by the fact that he had just 4.2 fantasy points, and he's now had under 45 receiving yards in 3 straight games, single-digit fantasy points in back-to-back weeks. And so they're reaching out to him. And allow me just to address this very quickly.
Oh, no.
Don't DM players. Stop it. Stop tagging them. Devontae Smith is absolutely right not to give a frick about our fantasy teams. He should only be concerned with helping the Eagles win. So stop it. Having said that, Devontae Smith, don't read your DMs, man. What are you doing? Right? Stop. Stop reading your DMs. Like, if you're looking for ladies, like, chances are they're not bugging you about your fantasy team. Just you know what I mean? Like, stop it. Here, this is my advice. Fantasy managers, don't slide into players' DMs to bitch him out. It's weak. It's your fault for starting him, right? He doesn't give a frick about your fantasy team. He's right to. And Devontae Smith, stop reading your DMs. I don't read my DMs. They're awful. DMs are awful.
Unless they're kicker questions.
Yeah, that guy was insane. But yeah.
Sorry, mate.
But I had to scroll through some BS to get to that. It was worth it for the social post. But yeah, I'm just telling you, DMs are. Listen, it's basically like the DMV, DMs, and then hell. Those are like the 3 worst places on earth.
It's a strange hierarchy of the world, but okay.
Tough scene for DMs.
Yes.
One more impact player on the Eagles offense from last night, Miles Sanders, who's having a career season here. Yes.
I'm friends with a couple of women that are Instagram models. And we sometimes
flex of the century.
No.
It's Flex Friday. Flex of the century.
No. Whatever. My point is the reason I bring that up. The reason I bring that up is because we will laugh and we will go through our DMs together and see which one of us has more thirsty dudes in their DMs, me or the Instagram model.
And I win every single time. We're going to talk about Miles Sanders.
No. And I win every single time.
Yeah.
I win every single time. More thirsty dudes in my DMs. Asking for fantasy advice, understand, and not necessarily sending me pictures.
Not necessarily Connor Rogers' topless.
Yes. No, exactly right. Exactly right. But I'm just telling you, just don't be a thirsty dude in a DM. That's all I'm asking to people, generally speaking.
No upside.
Miles Sanders with another big game, 17 rushes, 93 rush yards, and a touchdown for over 15 fantasy points, but maybe had the worst preseason take for fantasy amongst anyone, Miles Sanders. Let's take
don't give me crap about my picks. Listen to this advice.
You're going to keep getting 2 to 3 points if, that's how our offense is, man.
Got to get that ball.
Yeah, don't pick me up on fantasy no more. I'll just say that. I really don't care.
There you go. That's the worst advice anyone gave this preseason. Don't draft me in fantasy from Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders saying don't draft Miles Sanders in fantasy. That was terrible advice because Miles Sanders has been great.
Or an inside job. He's now winning his league because he got a bargain pick on Miles Sanders.
He sandbagged his own ADP to pick him up in fantasy. Might have been 17 or more touches in 5 out of 8 games so far this year. 3 straight games with 3 rushing touchdowns. He's had 5 total rushing touchdowns over the last 5 games. The concerns on Miles Sanders coming into the season were candidly fourfold. Would he get the volume? They seem to like Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott. Well, asked and answered. 77% of the running back carries. Can he stay healthy? He's obviously healthy. That was a concern as well. The touchdown equity. They like multiple guys there. He hasn't really scored the last couple of years. Jalen Hurts is always a threat to vulture. Well, again, 5 total rushing touchdowns in his last 5 games. He's up to, I believe, 6 touchdowns on the year as well. And so, any concern you had about Miles Sanders, and I raised my hand, I was one of them.
Yep.
He was on the hate list in this preseason. He's been on the hate list every year he's been in the NFL, and I've been right. I'm still plus money on my hatred of Miles Sanders over the course of my career, but this year, dead wrong. I'm taking it on the chin. Miles Sanders proved me and himself wrong. He was absolutely a value pick in fantasy.
On the Texans side of things, the only good thing for them right now seems to be Dameon Pierce. Especially, we talked about it earlier in the show, Jordan Davis goes in the IR. Eagles' run defense looks a little different. Jay, right now, Pierce, 139 rushing yards last night. and right in the mix for the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year odds, courtesy of BetMGM.
Yep, he's completely taken over this backfield, but the problem is, fantasy-wise, is that he was maybe the best player on the field last night. He only had 13.9 fantasy points because this team just doesn't get into the end zone enough, but Pierce was a force. Some of these runs, really just running angry. This is the one where, how does he not get knocked down after that bump? Just keeps his balance, which is absurd. He's one of the best running backs in the NFL right now, and he's still going a little bit under the radar because he's on Houston and they're going to finish with like 3 wins. But in terms of Offensive Rookie of the Year, I mean, Dameon Pierce is right there. He's the second favorite on BetMGM behind Kenneth Walker. I would still have Ken Walker a slight favorite over Dameon Pierce, but I think they're neck and neck. And then Cris Olave is third. Of everyone else after those 3, I don't really like. I think Garrett Wilson is probably the one with upside just based on what he did last week. But Dameon Pierce and Ken Walker, they're the top 2 very fun guys to watch every week.
Yeah, the problem with Dameon Pierce is, like, I'd want to say, like, he's a buy low. Because, I mean, here's a guy that has 0 rushing touchdown in his last 3 games, no passing game usage recently as well. And so he should be a buy low because for as awesome as he was last night, and he was probably the best player on the field, to your point, 27 for 139, he finished with under 14 fantasy points in this game, right? He should have had, this should have been a 20-plus game, 20-point-plus game. But I don't know that anyone that drafted him is going to be willing to, quote, sell him low. I would just say that if that opportunity existed, I would do that because there's no stopping him, and I do think positive touchdown regression is coming. I will say, as good as he's been, I think he's going to be better.
Yeah, and the good thing with Pierce is, like, they were 13.5-point underdogs. They lost by double digits, and he still got 27 carries. Like, they're just going to run him. They don't get away from the run. They don't care about game script. They're not going to make the playoffs.
They don't give a frick about the score.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it stands for. That's what it stands for. I've been told in my ear.
We don't
have
by
the kids in the control room that are up on the on all the hip language. IDAGF is I don't give a frick.
One more from this game, no Brandin Cooks. Brandin Cooks obviously not happy about staying with the Texans past the trade deadline. He is expected to be back in the team facility today. I mean, what are you doing with Brandin Cooks right now? It's kind of hard to rely on him at this point, even as probably a flex player.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to hang on to him just because of the talent there. I did an event once with Brandin Cooks, so I don't want to say I know him well, but I spent a day with him, like it was this fan thing. And I will tell you that just for whatever it's worth for spending one day with a guy, I thought he was awesome. Like just, like, and by the way, what you hear about him is like just a total professional, like a really genuine, sweet, thoughtful guy, you know what I mean? And so he sort of tweeted some version of this, like, just, I'm paraphrasing, but it's just like, don't mistake kindness, for weakness, that kind of stuff. So, you've never heard a bad word about Brandin Cooks as a teammate or as a professional in the league. And so, my guess is that he, puts his head down and goes out and just tries to be what he has been throughout his NFL career, which is a total professional, and try to do the best he can. But it's clearly there's some bad blood there between him and the Texans, but they're not budging. They're not releasing him. They don't have a lot else in there. And so my guess is that, they'll try to hopefully figure it out. I can't imagine trading him because what are you going to get for Brandin Cooks at this point? The upside of Brandin Cooks getting right is just more than whatever you'll get in a trade.
Yep, no, 100% agree with that. And Texans, this season's not over. Your season's never over in the AFC South. So, they'll want to get him out there to evaluate Davis Mills, if nothing else. All
right, let's get into some Rotoworld headlines. We got plenty of news. We obviously opened the show with some Jonathan Taylor talk. We tried to find some Panthers talk. We will get there eventually. But we have to start with, obviously, some of the biggest news.
By the way, off the Jonathan Taylor news real quickly, Deion Jackson, 54% available in Yahoo leagues.
That is
go pick him up. Stop watching this right now.
Sleepy leagues.
Pause it. We'll still be here. Please go pick him up and start him this week. All right.
Michael Thomas to undergo toe surgery, unlikely to return this season. Michael Thomas, the story with him for years now, guys, has been the injuries, and I think that this isn't shocking to anybody, unfortunately, for Michael Thomas, but I think the question kind of pivots to, besides Cris Olave, is there any pass catcher on this team right now that you're adding to your roster?
No, I mean, I know, look, I want to see Jarvis Landry back out there. Like, we haven't seen Jarvis Landry, right? He's played only 4 games this year. He hasn't played since week 4. So maybe if Landry gets out there and is healthy again, we could see that, but until we see Landry actually active, I can't imagine, picking up him. It feels like, after Olave, you're going to see some Marquez Callaway and some Rashid Shaheed and some Traquan Smith. Taysom Hill will continue to be annoying, getting touches in a variety of different ways as well. You've got the tight ends in Juwan Johnson and Adam Trotman in that order. But it feels like fantasy-wise, you're starting Olave, you're starting Kamara, and you're just sort of like, I don't love this as well. By the way, Michael Thomas, as great a player as as great a player as he is, and as fantasy productive as he was for so long, he's now missed 31 of the Saints' last 41 games. It feels like
he looked good at the start of the year as well.
He was great.
Won them the game against Atlanta, but he looks, it's trending in the wrong direction there, clearly.
Feels like this is the beginning of the end.
Yep. Jarvis Landry was 7 for 114 in that opening game against Atlanta, so he's the guy that really has the upside. But I mean, his value is high and it's known, but I'd be trying to trade for Cris Olave because this is going to be his offense going forward. And I don't know to keep talking about the Panthers. If you had a Panthers fan in your league who is now thinks that DJ Moore is just going to skyrocket, and you could trade DJ Moore for Cris Olave, if that kind of trade is out there, you'd 100% do it. I think that Olave is going to be potentially a top 12 receiver the rest of the way.
Olave has been that since basically week 2. So I'm with you there, Jay, as well. The one other thing I might say here on the Saints is just know that this is the Monday night game. You know what I mean? So again, I just as we move over to the Baltimore Ravens here, Connor, and their side of the ball, this is the Monday night game. So just understand that we don't expect to see Jarvis Landry this week, but as you look at practice reports, the fact is that today's practice is really Thursday for them because they're the Monday night game. They'll practice on a Saturday. Just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and going back to that Rookie of the Year board, Olave might be the only guy with value left. You could kind of hedge the running back bets because he's going to get the ball a ton, as we know. Another big wide receiver injury, Rashad Bateman. He's been dealing with foot injuries the entire year. Now he's out for the season. This one, when I hear Lisfranc for a wide receiver, that's what ended Santonio Holmes' career. It's very significant long-term for Bateman, obviously even short-term now. Ravens pass catchers this season, Devin Duvernay, Demarcus Robinson. This feels like a team that they probably regret not adding somebody at the deadline. Now, Jay, what do you make of just this duo that they have to go forward with? And Mark Andrews also dealing with significant injuries.
Yeah, I don't understand how Baltimore and Green Bay didn't add a receiver at the deadline, firstly. But when you look at Baltimore's pass catchers, obviously Mark Andrews is the guy. Isaiah Likely, who we're going to talk about, he's the one you're most excited about picking up for this week. But of the receivers, if you have to choose one, I think it has to be Devin Duvernay, just because he's got the most established track record. Just think he's got more upside in terms of talent than Demarcus Robinson as well. He's younger. He was a third-round pick 3 years ago. He's shown as well that he can add a little bit of a rushing element too. They do design some rushing plays for him. So I think Duvernay is the guy. But again, you're not super excited about Duvernay.
He ran around on 60% of his snaps last week. He played the most snaps of any Baltimore Ravens wide receiver. Again, sort of damning with faint praise. But I agree with you, Jay, as well. I will say that, Demarcus Robinson had a 24% target share last week without Rashad Bateman in there. He led all the wide receivers of the Ravens in receptions as well. And so, 6 for 64. I kind of like Demarcus Robinson. We saw him have moments in Kansas City where you're like, oh, there's something there. So, I picked him up in our show league. I'm decimated by buys, that our league is a 14-team league. But if you're in a situation like that where you're just like my entire bench is on a bye.
Yes.
I'm just looking for live bodies this week. Demarcus Robinson will be active and qualify at wide receiver. Yeah. Against a banged-up Saints secondary.
More bad news in Baltimore. Mark Andrews with the shoulder injury, not the injury from 2 weeks ago, did not practice Thursday. Barry, where does Isaiah Likely come in for you this week, hearing that news? Because he filled in incredibly last week for Andrews.
Yeah, you know what? And I really like him. Isaiah Likely feels like kind of a one-for-one replacement of Mark Andrews. What I would say is that I think it's not a great match with the Saints. Saints, one of the top 3 teams in the NFL in terms of fewest fantasy points allowed to opposing tight ends. But Likely, if Andrews is out, I think is a must start. I think he's a top 12 play. I think just based on his talent, he was somebody that we saw really ball out in the preseason. And then we thought, oh, this is going to be the guy. And then all of a sudden, he's just not getting on the field and they're using Josh Oliver. And you're like, what are we doing with Josh Oliver here? But I feel like, again, you're assuming rational coaching, of course, but he was so good last Thursday night that I don't think he can be denied. And so with the fact that the Ravens have a bye next week and the fact that Andrews hasn't practiced this week, if Andrews is out, to me, Likely is a must start. Having said all that, again, I just want to remind you, the fact that Andrews didn't practice yesterday on Thursday, that's in essence a Wednesday practice that he missed because they play the Monday night game. Let's see what happens today. Let's see what happens on Saturday. But certainly, likely, we'll have more information on this on Fantasy Football Pregame on Sunday morning right here on Peacock.
The last one on the Ravens injury report that's significant fantasy-wise, Gus Edwards' hamstring did not practice Thursday. Jay, does this mean Kenyon Drake might be viable this week in fantasy?
Geez, we talk a lot about Kenyon Drake
We
on
do.
this show.
We really do.
He pops up
Way
every
too
other
much.
week. It's the Kenyon Drake happy hour. Yeah, I think that he is definitely the running back that you'd want for this week. Clearly, if Gus Edwards isn't ready to go, Justice Hill is around, but Kenyon Drake is the guy. And I mean, there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game. The total is around 48 right now in BetMGM, and there's just not many people on this offense outside of Lamar Jackson. So guys like Kenyon Drake, Isaiah Likely, they could have a lot of value sneakily.
Yeah, you look, again, let's see what happens with Gus Edwards. He missed, in essence, a Wednesday practice here, but 7 for 62, 4 for 5, and the touchdown. There's no other Ravens running back that you feel good about if Gus Edwards misses this game. I currently have him running back 26, assuming that Gus Edwards misses, so he's a flex. He's a flex play, and in a week in which 6 teams are on a bye, including a lot of big-name running backs, I think he's viable this week against the Saints on Monday night.
We're going to take a break. When we're back, it is Flex Friday. Barry gave you a hint, Flex Friday earlier. We're talking sit, start, flex players for the weekend.
Not the kind of flexes you see on Connor's Instagram.
Friday, fellas. Talking start, sit, flex players, and we're not doing this just because I'm here. Bills, Jets. Your Jets.
My New York.
Your New York Jets.
When you take your flexy pictures, your shirtless photos, is it taken by somebody else? Do you have
They're
like
candid.
I
don't know they're happening.
Just as people are just taking.
I don't know they're happening.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and then I get sent them. I'm like,
they get sent them.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I would never
Definitely
ask.
not.
I would never
You definitely
plan
don't have
those
like
things.
you don't have an
Bosses.
Instagram girlfriend or boyfriend that is just taking those photos.
No.
I don't want to judge.
No, sometimes they're just general public.
Just general public.
Yeah.
When they see you and they're
Copy
like,
paste them from Google.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I actually have a Getty Images subscription for them.
Smart.
Yeah,
Very
just
smart.
so I don't have the watermark
Yeah,
on
no,
it.
of course.
You gotta have the good thing.
You can always tell when somebody's like, bawling or ratchet if they have the Getty
man.
Images watermark on
You're
it.
down bad when
You're
the
down
watermark's
bad when-
on there.
Because
Screen grab.
Right, exactly. Because the other thing is like, at least if nothing else, sometimes you see like women that are like on the red carpet that get red carpet, but they'll use the Getty Images thing with the watermark. I'm like, and they're like, no, it's more important to see my shoes and that I can't afford a Getty Images subscription versus, just cropping it so that you only see like basically knees up or something like that, I don't know. Just something I've noticed going through the gram
for a little while.
Okay.
It's good we had
You got that out.
Truly is
I'm trying to
Friday.
help you. It's been a long week.
The Bills are 11.5-point favorites traveling to
Yeah.
MetLife Stadium, over under 46 here. Flex player number 1, of course, is Gabe Davis on the Bills, who it's kind of funny to call Gabe Davis a flex player at this point. I mean, he's probably been bouncing around higher than that. But Barry, in this game, he will see a good corner duo. We don't know how much Sauce Gardner he'll see in this game. Probably a lot, considering how much they move Stephon Diggs. But you're obviously starting Gabe Davis, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Gabe Davis is East Coast Mike Williams, right? Which is what we talked about at the beginning of the year with Mike Williams. Like, there's going to be some great games and there's going to be some bad games, and you're not going to be able to guess which ones they are. So you just got to start him. You got to start them all year. Either it's like when you're at the blackjack table, you either always hit on 16 or you never hit on 16. You can't try to guess, right? You either always start Gabe Davis or you never start Gabe Davis, as you see it there on your screen. 3 different games with over 16 fantasy points, 3 different games with under 7 fantasy points. He is so boom or bust, but I feel like he's good enough, and he's a big play enough that that when he booms, like, he helps win your week for you. And so I'm in on Gabe Davis. I'm just starting him every week, and it is what it is. It's worth noting that last week, bad game, but it was against the Packers, who have a pretty good secondary. Their first game off the bye. Josh Allen was, I thought, inconsistent in that game. And the other 2 single-digit games were weeks 2 and 3 when he was dealing with that ankle, And so I'm starting Gabe Davis this week. He's my wide receiver 19. I actually think he might be a bit of a buy low.
Jay, on the other side, the Jets with Garrett Wilson got back to over 100 yards last week. It's been a roller coaster situation for Garrett Wilson this week. And I know, Barry, for you, he comes in right around wide receiver 31. But, Jay, you think you're comfortable against starting Garrett Wilson? It feels like Zach Wilson kind of locks onto him as we've figured out with Elijah Moore not happy.
Yeah, comfortable is a strong word, but I think that he's flex viable depending on who is on bye for you. I mean, Garrett Wilson, like you said, has been a roller coaster. I mean, he was favorite for Offensive Rookie of the Year after week 2 when he lit up Cleveland, and now he's nowhere. But he did bounce back, and I think the big thing with Garrett Wilson is that he did show that he can produce in junk time with his twin brother Zach, the lesser brother of that duo, and as 11.5-point dogs, you would expect that there's going to be some junk time.
I thought, I mean, you cover the Jets, so you tell me, but I was really surprised in the post-game press conference when Zach Wilson said, talking about his comfort level with Garrett Wilson, just, that there was a motherly-like quality to Garrett Wilson, that I was surprised that he sort of
motherly?
went there. He said motherly. That's right. That's what I saw. Did I make that up? I might have made that up.
Yeah,
motherly.
I missed that one.
Fatherly? Brotherly?
Oh, man.
Motherly. I was making a mother joke. Wait, you guys come on.
You nailed it. No, I got it.
I'm out here by myself, America. You know what it is? Like, I'm trying
America.
I'm out here. I'm just trying. I'm killing myself for you guys. Thank you. B. Rubes thought it was funny in the control room. You guys just stared at me blankly like it was a real thing.
Matthew likes to make up the producers in his ears saying things when they're not actually saying anything.
Yeah,
this is one of his running bits.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
The control room is in an uproar right now. We can't even get back on track.
God,
they actually stood up and clapped.
Yeah. Can't stop laughing.
All right.
Unbelievable.
Screw you guys.
To the backfield.
I'm going to be Cartman. Screw you guys. I'm out of here.
Going home. The Bills' backfield now with two notable names, Devin Singletary, and they made the trade for Nyheim Hines. Maybe it'll take a little while for Hines to get integrated into this offense, but Singletary.
Well, before we move there, I should point out that since under Zach Wilson, Garrett Wilson has a 20% target share. So he should. I'm just agreeing with Jay. I feel like I should actually give some analysis instead of just another mother joke.
Just another mother joke? Yeah, we fulfilled our quota. We hit the over 0.5.
We
Cashed on BetMGM.
Promo code Barry.
We saw Ramondre Stevenson have a really big day against this Jets defense last weekend. Do you think Devin Singletary is in line for that as well?
I do. I have him running back 14 this week. Look, he's had over 15 touches in each of the last 2 games. He's averaging over 80% of the offensive snaps. Now, do I think Nyheim Hines cuts into his workload a little bit more than James Cook or Zach Moss did? I do, but still, Singletary is the only fantasy running back on the Bills to score double-digit fantasy points this season. There's a trust there with Josh Allen. So going against the New York Jets, I think he's a top 15 play.
Moving along, Chargers at the Falcons.
And I'm not starting Nyheim Hines.
Not starting Nyheim
Hines. I want to see it first. You know what I mean?
Chargers at the Falcons. Chargers are 3-point favorites. A high over-under total in this one, Jay, 49.5. So let's start right there with because they are your Falcons.
Yeah,
they were your Falcons. I don't even know anymore.
They're surging. I'm kind of off them, though. I don't like the Falcons.
Drake London. It got to the point of the conversation where at some point we're asking, hey, we don't know whether to start this guy, but maybe also entering drop potential territory. How do you view him this week against a Chargers secondary that's hurt and has had their problems?
Yeah, I'm not starting him. I'm not
Still
starting
not
Drake
starting
London.
him.
No. They've got a really bad rushing defense. Still the Chargers haven't been able to fix that the past 2 seasons. So I think that the Falcons, any excuse to run the ball, they will take it.
Yes.
Drake London has...
They don't need an excuse to run the ball.
Drake London has like 132 receiving yards the past 5 weeks. Like he's not viable at the moment at all, unfortunately. So not starting Drake London.
Agreed.
Barry, Josh Palmer. Josh Palmer, we heard from Austin Eckler praising Josh Palmer in this offense.
The definitive Austin Eckler interview.
Yes.
I know he does a lot of interviews, but this was the definitive interview right here.
The certified, trademarked.
I'm just saying, like, if you really wanted to get to know Austin Eckler, the person, really dive in.
It's very fun.
So do you believe him? Or is Josh Palmer in start territory?
Yes. If he is active. My former colleague and my friend Lindsay Theory over at ESPN, she does a great job covering all the LA teams. And when I said Josh Palmer is a must start, she tweeted back at me and Jay, no guarantee Joshua Palmer will play. He's cleared concussion protocol. But when Brandon Staley was asked if he will absolutely be available, he said, quote, "I'm not willing to say that," unquote. Hi, Matthew. That is, again, Lindsay Theory, my old I love Lindsay Theory.
Good vocalizing of as well.
Yeah, indeed. Anyway, Lindsay does a great job covering the team for ESPN and does a great job just as a reporter in general. The fact that he's cleared the concussion protocol is obviously a positive sign. So, listen, if he is active, I'm absolutely starting him. You think about this Falcons defense that is one of the worst in the NFL. In fact, no team has given up more passing yards per game to over the last 4 weeks than the Atlanta Falcons. So if Palmer is not out there, DeAndre Carter suddenly becomes pretty interesting as well. And I think both guys might be viable this week in kind of again, we're in the Friday flex territory, so I think both are kind of wide receiver 3s. I think Josh Palmer will be a top 20 wide receiver if he's active, and I do think DeAndre Carter could be a borderline top 30 play against the Falcons as well.
Jay, the Falcons' backfield, how do you break it down between, I don't know if it's a two-headed monster, but definitely two people in this backfield, Tyler Algier, Caleb Huntley.
As well, because Cordero Patterson. Well, I'm going to throw this to Mr. Berry, because why is there a 14 spot gap between Tyler Algier and Caleb Huntley? To me, these are largely the same guy. Maybe Algier has a higher floor.
I think so. It feels like I know. It feels like that Algier at least has a little bit of passing game work that Huntley does not.
Certainly did last week.
Algier has 13 red zone carries in the last 4 games. Like he's scored in the last 2 games, 46 carries in the last 2 games. Like just feels like there is 46 carries in the last 3 games, I should say. So to me, I think probably more touchdown equity and more passing game usage than Huntley. It feels like they have kind of a set package for Huntley. Huntley comes in for like chunks of plays and then he's done, and they just kind of have a set package for him. With Cordero Patterson back, though, I don't know. So right at the moment, I will just tell you that I have Algier as running back 19 this week. I have Huntley at running back 33. But both those numbers would go out the window if Cordero Patterson is active for this game. If he is, Patterson would be the only running back I would start. If he's out, I'm starting Algier with Huntley as a touchdown-dependent flex. I'm starting Algier, and Huntley would be a touchdown-dependent flex.
Colts at Patriots. The Patriots are 5.5-point favorites. Over/under set at 40.5, so not a wild point total in this game. We opened the show talking about Jonathan Taylor not practicing in consecutive days, but that opens the door for Deon Jackson.
Yeah, exactly, before I was so rudely interrupted by like 25 minutes.
The Panthers won.
All of it. It doesn't matter. But he's available in 54% of Yahoo leagues. He got work in weeks 5 and 6. Taylor and Hines missed there. And so you see it there on your screen. He had 13 points in that week 5 game against the Broncos. Hines was in that game but left that game early. And then week 6, it was all Deon Jackson, 28.1 fantasy points in that game in both games. He's had over 90 total yards. He's had over 17 touches. No Nyheim Hines. Hines now in Buffalo. And that's a 12% target share and almost 7 touches a game that leave with Hines. So I think maybe you'll see some Phillip Lindsay in this game. But honestly, I think it's going to be the Deon Jackson show against New England. He's going to be a borderline, top 15 play for me this week. I think Deon Jackson's a must start. And as I said, available in a lot of leagues.
Yep. Jay, we know on the Patriots side of things, Ramondre Stevenson is must play. But Dameon Harris, he did not practice Thursday, not because of injury, due to illness, so expected to play in this game. We'll see. But is he in flex territory with you, knowing Stevenson's work share ahead of him?
He is it is Ramondre's backfield, but I think Mac Jones is playing so poorly that he can support 2 running backs, particularly in a game where they are 5.5-point favorites. We'll see. Harris still got 11 carries. If he is fit and ready to go, I do think that he will be able to provide flex value, particularly in a bye-mageddon week, but feel phenomenal about it.
Over the last 4 weeks, the Colts are actually 27th against the run. You can run on Indianapolis. They've had some injuries there as well, and so as Harris works his way back in as well, look, he played only 40% of the snaps last week, but still got 13 touches. To your point, if you're getting double-digit touches, like in this week, I agree with you. He comes in at running back 25 for me.
Not expected to be a big air-it-out kind of game between these two teams, but we have to talk about Michael Pittman, who I think was projected for much larger things this year. They've had their problems at quarterback. It's now the Sam Ehlinger show. Do you start Pittman this week in the flex spot?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, just the volume. Like, he's had at least 9 targets now in 3 straight games. I think Ehlinger's really going to struggle here. Belichick loves to pick on inexperienced quarterbacks, which Ehlinger is, and so I think they go conservative and run heavy. Another reason why I like Deon Jackson here, but just the volume of Michael Pittman, I think, makes him a viable wide receiver 3.
We'll take a break. When we're back, it's the Rotoworld Rankings Discord for the upcoming weekend. The Geno hype video leads us to Rotoworld Rankings Discord because we have to start with Geno Smith.
Why hasn't NBC done one of those for
me?
They've been working on it.
Hype video.
You're not the comeback player of the year. Geno Smith is.
I might be comeback player of the year, comeback podcaster of the year.
Yeah, you're in the discussion.
All right,
it's more like a Christian McCaffrey type of case, not a Geno Smith kind of case,
If Jalen Hurts does win Offensive Player of the Year, you get the hype video.
I'm just trying to think. Yeah.
What would the shot? We do the shots of you walking to the set.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the soundtrack?
Right. Yeah. 1000% me. Like, me getting
Yep.
into makeup, everything like that. Me walking the long distance from the parking lot.
You kind of like face Mush Sims when you walk by his studio.
Me waving at people whose name I don't actually know, pretending I know them, but doing one of those, that kind of thing, Yeah, just a lot of that kind of stuff.
All right, we'll get to work on it.
Exactly. Yeah, just like a lot of different things. Like maybe there's a couple of shots of like me over notes, with people. That kind of stuff.
Basically,
whenever they do hype videos for like reporters, it's always like this, they're always on the phone, that kind of stuff. Like I'm texting a source or something.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that we could do.
Yeah, we'll try to get a shot of you in the meeting for the show, but we're not going to be able to.
Just Photoshop me in.
Yeah, just the MB logo on the call.
On the call.
I
call in. Yeah, exactly.
Candid.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Geno Smith, what a year it's been for Geno Smith. And if you ask Geno, he's thought he's always had this ability. He's just finally getting to show it.
I'm grateful to have worked myself into this position. Also, knowing who I am, I'm very set in who I am. I know exactly who I am and what I can do. And so I've never bought into the narratives that have been out there. I didn't just get this good over, the course of one off season. So, I think that's mostly a narrative, and a lot of this stuff is media driven.
Geno and the Seahawks traveling to Arizona. Jay, a game that did not live up to the point total expectations the first time. Do you think they can this time?
I think they can. Last time was weird. I think the teams went a combined 1 of 6 on 4th down. Seattle were just for fun were kicking field goals deep in Arizona territory. So that game should have been higher scoring. It will be this week. Total is almost 50 in that range. And I just believe in Geno Smith. Geno Smith, he's top 5 in DVOA, passer rating, PFF grade, QBR. He leads the league in completion percentage. He's just real. He's just good. This is who he is and who he will be going forward. And that's why he's the comeback player of the year.
Barry, where does he come in for you this week on your rankings?
QB9. I think he's a top 10 play. I agree with him. Like, they wrote him off. He ain't wrote back, right? People keep on asking, what's he coming back from? He's coming back from total irrelevance. That's what he's coming back from. He's the best story in the NFL this year, alongside, Brian Robinson, different thing. But Geno Smith, in terms of what he's doing on the field, is incredible.
With Geno's emergence, you confidently start DK and Lockett at this point, right, each week?
Yeah, I have both guys as top 16 plays as well. 8 targets for Lockett in each of the last 2 games. Metcalf, you think about that first game against Arizona, he had 7 targets. He's had 3 different games with 50 or more receiving yards and a touchdown here. Arizona's actually been pretty good against number 1 wide receivers, but just because there's such a narrow target tree in Seattle and because Metcalf has a chance at a touchdown anytime he goes, I think you're starting both guys this week.
A more recent riser, D'Onta Foreman on the Panthers due to the CMC trade.
Yeah, keep pounding.
Yeah, keep pounding. He goes to Cincinnati this week, a team that got punched in the mouth by the run game.
We're on to Cincinnati for the Carolina Panthers. Even Eddie Pinheiro.
Oh, man.
With the potential game script of this one, are there any concerns for Foreman if the Panthers fall behind a lot and have to throw, or is he just relevant no matter what?
I think he's relevant no matter what. Look, over the last 4 weeks, the Bengals are allowing the 9th most rushing yards per game to opposing running backs. You can run on Cincinnati, and I feel like just like some other teams, like when we talk about Atlanta, right, or the Texans, right, the Panthers are one of those teams that are going to run the ball no matter what, regardless of the score here. And so I think Foreman, who, by the way, is a better pass catcher than he gets credit for. He's not as good as Chuba Hubbard. He's certainly not CMC, but he's not a complete liability in the passing game here. Just massive volume and a good workload. By the way, he's good. So, yeah, I think D'Onta Foreman is a top 20 play this week. He actually comes in at running back 15 for me. The fact that Hubbard has been ruled out, only boosts that confidence in him.
Jay, P.J. Walker has been good news for DJ Moore after a horrible start to Moore's season. I know he comes in as Barry's wide receiver 15, which is right around consensus. Do you think Moore can keep this up the rest of the year with Walker under center?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just the new offense with P.J. Walker. He's giving them more of a vertical element, clearly, as he threw the ball 68 yards in the air to DJ Moore in the end zone. He's had 21 targets the past 2 weeks, and I think you just have to treat him as being back to pretty much the DJ Moore that everyone thought they were drafting, and that's a locked-in top 20 wide receiver each week.
36% target share in the 3 starts that P.J. Walker has met. You saw the T-shirts that even Baker Mayfield is wearing at the top of the show. Right, exactly. The PJ to DJ. Bengals secondary really banged up. Awuzie is out for the year. No Mike Hilton. I think they're going to be able to move the ball through the air, and the way they're going to move the ball through the air is from PJ Walker to DJ Moore. Everyone's excited about it. Even kids are pretending to be PJ Walker. We have some practice video here, I think, of a kid trying to be PJ Walker. Let's go ahead and show that video if we can. Here you go. This is just a young. Oh, it's not actually. I'm sorry. It's not a young kid. It's
wondering where that was going.
It's Baker Mayfield just missing awfully. Just
really hasn't worked out for Baker Mayfield.
Poor Baker. Listen, he'll always have the insurance ads.
He'll have the insurance ads.
Right.
Christian Kirk been on a little bit of a skid. The last 4 weeks have not really been great for Christian Kirk, but now he gets a get-well matchup against the Raiders this week. And, Barry, I know you're higher on him this week than the consensus that has him as wide receiver 24.
You had me at Vegas, right? Raiders 27th in pass defense over the last 4 weeks. You can throw, and as you see it here on your screen, look, again, it's been up and down, but I throw at look, he had 3 for 40 against the Broncos. That's one of, if not the best defense in the NFL. The week before, at the New York Giants, 7 for 96. Week 6, he scored the touchdown here. So Christian Kirk, yes, I think in a game in which they are traveling east, West Coast team traveling east for a 1 o'clock game, I think they'll struggle defensively, and I think that means a nice game for Christian Kirk.
Jay, you buying the bounce back for Kirk?
Yeah, I think so. The total is a pretty high, 48. I think that they should be fine. And, he's had the 17 targets the past 2 weeks, so it should be fine.
All right. Reminder, coming up at 1 p.m. Eastern on the NFL on NBC YouTube channel, Pat Kerrane and Kyle Dvorchak are taking your DFS questions for Week 9. Join the conversation at the top of the hour. Also, if you want more in-depth fantasy analysis of every game this weekend, make sure to check out Pat Kerrane's The Walkthrough on NBCSportsEdge.com and Rotoworld.com. One more break. When we're back, it's last call, and we're talking weekend winners. Be sure to check out our new Sunday show, Fantasy Football Pregame, at 11 a.m. live on Peacock. It's a one-stop shop for your NFL fantasy and betting needs. Get your sit-start questions answered using the hashtag FFPregame. It's time for last call. We got to talk weekend winners, boys. Jay, who's winning the weekend for you?
It's my Seattle Seahawks who are going to win the weekend. They are 2-point underdogs at the Arizona Cardinals. With what home field advantage means in the NFL these days, it's worth 1.5 to 2 points. So the betting market is saying that the Cardinals are exactly the same level of team as the Seahawks. I don't agree with that at all. The Seahawks are better than the Cardinals. They should be favored in this game.
I like that. The fact that the Cardinals have a losing record, the Seahawks have a winning record, and yet the Seahawks are the ones getting points.
Yep.
I'm with you. I like the Seahawks to win outright.
They go 1.5 games up in the NFC West, and they win that game outright.
All right. For me, I'm staying in the NFC. I'm going with Aaron Jones against Detroit. It feels like the Packers have been a little hesitant to fully feature Jones. Detroit's defense, we talk about it every week. That's time to feast. I think Aaron Jones gets in the end zone twice this weekend in a huge division game. Where are you going?
My weekend winners, Commanders fans. Listen, Jeff Bezos, Jay-Z, it doesn't matter. Matthew Berry, RG3.
Just leak
doesn't
it.
matter. Josh Harris.
The team.
A lot of people circling. It doesn't matter. I don't know who's going to own this team. I just know who isn't. So Commanders fans are the weekend winners. We've already won. We're already playing with plus money. But real talk, I will say Aaron Rodgers along with Aaron Jones. I agree with you. Detroit giving up 24 fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks not named Bailey Zappi. Every quarterback outside of Bailey Zappi, they're giving up. No, every quarterback that isn't Bailey Zappi has had at least 24 fantasy points against they're averaging 24 fantasy points against the Detroit Lions. I think Aaron Rodgers gets back on track against the Lions. 49.5 is the line on this game. We expect a lot of points to be scored on BetMGM. Use promo code Barry. So yes, so there you go. That's my weekend winner. Aaron Rodgers and Commanders fans. So all right, listen. That's what, you know what? No, you take it easy. You've done enough this show. I got this. Listen,
I never know when you're done.
It's closing time. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. For Connor Rogers and Jay Croucher, I'm Matthew Berry. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Sunday morning on Pregame. Peace out. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, okay, respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.